This is Dolynny TV, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, and welcome back to another edition of Edmonton Oilers discussion here on the channel today. And well, what do we got? We've got a little bit of interesting stuff all of a sudden happening across the NHL. We've had a couple of trades in the past couple of days. Now suddenly we've got, oh yeah, don't forget, training camps coming up in less than a week, and it just so happens, oh yes, that the Oilers will be releasing a camp roster here soon, but also in that teams are already releasing their camp rosters, and what I mean by that is look no further than the Pittsburgh Penguins, who feature Josh Curry on their camp invite list for the 2021 season. So of course, Josh Curry, if you don't know that name, you would have missed the 18-19 season that was for the Oilers. He was a farm club player that ended up playing some very impactful minutes, albeit very few minutes per game, but the guy was a spark plug, man. That guy, he came out and absolutely was flying around out there, buzzing and getting everybody else involved, and I loved everything Josh Curry brought to the Oilers in his few games he played for them in 18-19. Didn't play for us in 19-20, but just was what it was, I guess you could say. So, with that, we're getting into more than just Bob Stauffer going out here and giving us projected lineups. So, take it here, Kurt Leavins on Twitter, who just so happens to be that, that 9 things list I'm always referencing. Kurt Leavins is the writer of the 9 things list on the Edmonton Journal every Sunday. So, he's out here about 10-15 minutes ago as to when I'm recording this video. I screenshotted that about 5-10 minutes ago, projecting his D pairs for the 2021 season for the Edmonton Oilers. Starting off with Nurse Bear, Jones Larson, Russell Barry, and then your 7-8 defensemen being Cuckoo and Bouchard. This is not anything crazy, right? We don't have Evan Bouchard, the top pair defenseman. We don't have Tyson Barrie, the top pair defenseman. We don't have Chris Russell, the top pair defenseman. Right? This is pretty much exactly how we expect it to go. Barring an injury at camp, this is what the Oilers defense looks like entering the season. Fair? Fair. All right. So, the questions that are sitting here remaining to be asked are, Bear, he's still got to be signed. Obviously, we have no official word yet. I've been combing social media pretty heavily today, but I don't think we have official word yet today if Bear landed in Edmonton or not today. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out for the Edmonton Oilers and the camp situation as we get going. But the other side too, sorry, I'm just seeing notes here about Philip Broberg getting ready for Team Sweden today. But, right, that's Bear. Jones, can he fill that second line role? Well, coming out of camp, he probably can. Problem is, going into competition games against the 6 other Canadian squads, night in, daybreak, night out kind of deal, it could be very interesting to see if Caleb Jones is capable of holding that position. We know Adam Larsson is at worst a top 4 defenseman, a number 4 right-hand shot kind of deal. That's not a problem for him, but it's a big role for him to sit there and take on the task that is turning Caleb Jones into a bona fide top pair or bona fide second pair defenseman, depending on how Dave Tippett deploys his defensive staff. And that is where it gets more interesting, might I add, when you start talking about how Dave Tippett deploys his defensive staff, because as it currently shakes out here on this projected lineup by Kurt Leavins, is the Oilers would be spending $7.75 million on their third pairing defense. That's ludicrous, right? Nowhere else, unless Bear gets paid something silly above what? Something silly above 2.15. Actually, it would have to be 2.15 to match what you're paying Russell and Barrie to be a pair. That's the thing. So this is kind of messed up in a way. Is, yeah, you know what, Bear, Nurse, that should be your expected highest pairing paid for being your top pair, but here instead you have your third pair being your highly paid pair, and that's danger. But of course, now we've got a new purpose for Chris Russell. He is expansion draft bait in case they don't want to take James Neal, in case they don't want to take Kyle Turris. Chris Russell is a guy who's on a $1.5 million deal, cap hit, next season, so we got to keep him around. Does that mean we have to keep him in the lineup? Well, if he's getting paid $4 million, more than likely. And we know Dave Tippett actually very much so likes what Chris Russell brings to the lineup, so it's not sitting here saying, let's get negative and down about Chris Russell all over again here on Dolynny TV. We've done that for a couple of years now. We don't have to do that again because, you know what, the end is in sight. Let's just get there with a playoff spot in tow. What do you say? All right, Slater Cuckoo. Evan Bouchard, 7'8" defenseman. I've been telling you this since Slater Cuckoo got signed, right? Cuckoo's your 7th defenseman, technically speaking, because of experience and all that, but he is your number 4 on the left side. Evan Bouchard is your 7th defenseman if you need a guy on the right side, or technically your number 4 on the right side. So that is what it is, but end of the day, these are exactly what you expect, right? I can sit here and nitpick the Bears situation. I can ask about Jones being a top 4 or not. You can say Russell and Barrie are too highly paid to be a third pair, but this is exactly what I think 99% of us project the Oilers defense to look like going into Game 1 against the Vancouver Canucks on January 13th. If you're projecting something else, I'd really like to see it, because I don't know how else you shuffle things around. I don't think you go Jones and Barrie together. That doesn't make much sense, right? And I mean, Barrie, yes, he's on the third pair, but he'll play all that power play time. And knowing how Dave Tippett ran Oscar Klefbom last year, you're looking at a guy who's still going to play 20 minutes a night because he's playing a minute 45 of 3 power plays a night, and suddenly you're giving him just about 6 minutes of ice time just on the power play alone. Well, then you've got Chris Russell as a third pair. That makes sense. Ethan Barrie's got to get signed. Adam Larson, is he actually going to be steady Eddie this year like he was for a little bit of last year, but not all of it? Cuckoo, how much of a rise to the top impact can he have? Evan Bouchard, if you're in there already, can you stay in there? That's the question for him. So ladies and gentlemen, there is a lot to dissect, even in understanding that this is exactly the way it should and probably will look like. There's a lot of questions that remain to be asked, and that's what we hope to see sorted out here in training camp. But Kurt Leavins, man, this guy typically always very astute in his observations in the 9 Things articles, and has had a very complicated challenge doing those when there's been a very big lack of Oilers news for the past several months. But he's done a fine job, and here we find him doing a fine job, doing exactly what I'd say the Oilers' defensive pairs should be heading into January 13th against the Vancouver Canucks. I'm Tyson. This is Dolynny TV. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will catch you in the next one.